And my question is, do I need to live in delusion in order to have my bubble heaven? And how do I mediate those places?
Beautiful, beautiful question. Where are you from?
I'm from Israel.
It's yes and. Definitely it's not about living in a bubble. Definitely it's not about living in delusion. That never serves anyone. But it's about yes and, meaning when a lot of us open our hearts to the reality beyond the fence, as you say. In your case, it's literal. In other cases, it may be metaphoric. But that other reality beyond my bubble, when we think about opening our hearts to it, our hearts are full of pain because it's violence and it's war and it's harm and it's destruction. And flowers blossom on the other side of the fence also. And babies are born on the other side of the fence to parents who love them. And people get married on the other side of the fence. And they feed each other. And there are opportunities to open our hearts to the fullness of the world, but that isn't taking in only the negative fullness. So even in a land, as you say, that since you were born has been full of war and violence, and it feels like you've got to live in this bubble to find heaven. And in the midst of existing side by side with the horror and the violence and the death is also joy and love. And so opening our hearts to others is not only about opening our hearts to the places where others are suffering, but it's also opening our hearts to the places where others are rejoicing. And that becomes the fullness of living in the reality. A bubble is never the answer. There are times in which not every thought is helpful. And so there will be many times in your life in which thinking about the violence that is happening at this very moment, not so far away, in which that thought is not helpful in that moment. That thought prevents you in that moment from dropping into love, peace, presence, faith, hope. But just recognizing I don't have to have that thought now is not the same as living in a bubble. It's just a choice of when I need to be thinking about different things. When you do think about, open your awareness in a spacious way to your neighborhood, to your community, to your country, to your adjoining countries, make sure as you do that, and this goes for all of us, because it isn't only the horror that's taking place in the Middle East now. It's the horror that's taking place to Mother Earth now. It's horror that takes place to indigenous communities around the world now as they are being slaughtered and harmed and for their land. As we open our hearts to all of that, remember not to leave out opening your heart to the flowers that blossom. Because along with the darkness there is light. But we are absolutely not called upon to live in a bubble. We're called upon to be able to understand that that peace, that heaven, that perfection is on a level that is much, much deeper than superficial. So if you look at the ocean, the waves always go up and down. There's lots of action on the waves. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. The perfection, the stillness, the unchangingness of the ocean is in the depths. And so that connection that you find in your meditation, in your spiritual practice, it's not to a perfection that exists on this superficial level in the midst of fighting and violence. That is not perfect. But if there are moments in which the pain is so much that temporarily you go into a bubble, an inner retreat or an outer retreat, that's also fine. It's the reason that we sleep every night. We are created, we have evolved physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, to actually need to turn off. And interestingly, the time that is the most healing for the body-brain is not our dreams where we're theoretically sorting things out or seeing a better world, but it's actually deep sleep. The time that the body does most of its healing and repair work is when we're in deep sleep. So there is something very deeply restorative about being able for a short period of time to go into a state in which you are free of the thoughts about that which is happening on the surface of the waves. And so you shouldn't feel bad about that, but you don't want to live in it. Like the goal is not to live asleep. We need to wake up. And we also need to restore. And when we restore, we close our eyes and we go into deep sleep. And on an emotional level, when you need to restore, it's fine. Create that healing bubble for you. Just don't live there. Because you're called upon to be a part of a solution. Whether direct or indirect, it doesn't matter. Both are equally powerful. Don't think that only the people in the army are the ones making a difference. Everyone who is sowing seeds of peace, of love, of oneness, of understanding is part of the solution. And you are called upon to do that. So yes, and.